Information fueled.
Opinion driven. This is Nashville's Morning News with Dan Mandis.
And so, my fellow Americans,
we talk news.
6:07, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to you, friends. It's Nashville's Morning News. Very cold Monday, December 2nd. Hope you are doing well. Want to welcome on into the program Jonthan Fahey. Jonthan, of course, used to work within the Trump administration. Sorry about that, Jonthan. Within the Trump administration, former federal prosecutor for many years as well. Jonthan, always great to have you on the program. There's a couple of things that are like right up your alley as someone who, again, used to work within the Trump administration. And, of course, you are also very much of a legal analyst. People see you on Fox Business with Maria Bartiromo and so forth. So when I saw that that Joe Biden had pardoned not 2, but now 3 turkeys over the holiday with the pardoning of Hunter Biden, I had to get your reaction to it.
Yeah, I think it's I'm really happy about this in the fact I predicted it. So I'm just happy about one of my predictions occasionally ends up being right. But I think everyone kind of knew this was coming, that he had to get through the campaign, even when it was Kamala's campaign, and had to lie about this. But no one really trusted Joe Biden, I think, generally. But I think what's really funny about this, I think he should have just pardoned him and said, he's my son, he's, changed his ways, and that's my prerogative. Instead, he went against and started tearing down the entire justice system and saying it was a political prosecution, which kind of, it's a fun irony because
yes,
they had previously been saying, oh, the justice system isn't political, it's impossible to be corrupted because everyone there is so morally pure, and that's what Merrick Garland, has been saying consistently. So now when Donald Trump's saying it's political, they can't come back to that and say, no, it's not, there's nothing political about this. So it really is funny that he should have just said, he's my son, I have a prerogative as president, anyone else would do it too, I'm pardoning him. But it was weird that he went down that road.
Well, yeah, sort of like, you know what, deal with it. And here's the other point that I would make is that, okay, so if all of that is the case, if this is, they were out to get my son and this was highly unusual and this was a political hit job and all of these other things, well, then why didn't he do it earlier? I mean, that would be my question too. Okay, so you've said all this time that you're not going to pardon your son. Then all of a sudden, Kash Patel is Donald Trump's pick to lead the FBI. And all of a sudden he chose this moment now to pardon his son.
Yeah, you're exact. That's a really good point. If he saw this was a political unfair prosecution, he could have, as not only with the pardon power, but the ability to be in charge of the justice system, he could have cut this off at the knees. But he's the one that was saying that was legitimate during the process. I respect the system. I respect the jury. All of these things. So yeah, you're exactly right. It's like, if he really thought that, why didn't he say so? Because that's, your responsibility as a president, if you saw an unfair prosecution, you think would be that's being done by your administration, would be to step in and stop it.
One of the things that people are saying is that, this sets a dangerous precedent. Well, this has been precedent for a long time. Outgoing or lame duck presidents. I mean, this is part of what they do. We know that Bill Clinton, he famously pardoned his brother way back when. And you've got other examples as well, obviously. And so, for me, and you're right, you and I talked about this really wasn't that big of a surprise, but they are talking about how you could sort of connect this to the J6ers now. People are saying, this gives Trump, the opportunity and the precedent to pardon all of the J6ers. Well, he could have done that anyway, and he can do that anyway. I mean, but perhaps now, though, this gives him even more justification if that's what he wants to do.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think he is going to pardon them, but it certainly gives him a lot more political cover from the left that wants to go apoplectic when he does it. It's like, wait, these were political prosecutions. I'm rectifying a wrong, just like Biden said he did. And yeah, I think I think he will do it almost immediately. My guess is, the batch of people that didn't, commit any acts of violence and just wandered around the Capitol, those cases are going to be gone almost immediately. But yeah, I think it really does. He would do it anyway, but it gives him additional cover and takes away a lot of ammunition from the left. And it's going to be fun watching them, just break down after basically the DOJ has spent the past 3.5 years as their only mission has been to prosecute J6ers, leaving, communities to suffer with, higher crime rates and everything else. So it is going to be kind of funny watching their 4 years of work just be washed away with a bunch of pardons.
Well, I mean, Donald Trump giving sort of an indication as to what he's going to do. He sent out this post on social media. Does the pardon given by Joe to Hunter include the J6 hostages who have now been imprisoned for years? Such an abuse and miscarriage of justice. So ultimately, I think this does give Trump that justification. With the pardoning of Hunter, the other thing I think, though, just to look at this from a slightly different perspective, is that Joe Biden doing this saves Donald Trump the constant questions about whether or not he would pardon Hunter Biden if Trump would do it. Because remember, that was also a big conversation a while back from the media was to Donald Trump, will you pardon Hunter Biden? And so this sort of saves Trump all of that drama.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it also saves, it gives Biden takes away credit that Trump would have gotten because he would have looked magnanimous.
Yep.
Pardoning Hunter. So Biden and none of the Democrats wanted Trump to get that credit, for doing so, because there was nothing during this entire Biden administration that ever showed any ability to be magnanimous with the Trump supporters or any of these things. It was all political. You have Steve Bannon, you have Peter Navarro, you have all of these people that shouldn't have been prosecuted and were put through the ringer and go into prison. And it's like, yeah, I think they wanted to deprive Trump the ability to try to unify the nation,
yep.
Which again is so cynical on Biden's part. He had 4 years and all he did was divide people.
Yep, you're absolutely right. So what do you think about that? I did mention this during my monologue that there's some people that are saying that, well, he can't plead the fifth now. Hunter can't plead the fifth. You've got James Biden, Joe Biden's brother, that is also accused of being, chest deep in all of this, political malfeasance, if you will, the influence peddling and the rest of it. So, and then of course, all roads, I believe, would lead to Joe Biden. So is this an inroads for the incoming FBI director and attorney general as well to take a look at maybe a closer look and maybe start going after other Bidens?
Yeah, I mean, that's that's an interesting point, and I think a good point. If they want to sort of get to the bottom, and it depends, again, on a world of where you want your resources spent, because I think the Biden administration, in hindsight, would look back and say maybe going all January 6th all the time wasn't a good move. But yeah, I think it really would be because, once he's pardoned, and he had such a broad pardon that basically covered any conduct from like 2014 until now. So they could go in there, put him in the grand jury, compel him to testify. If he lies, they could charge him with perjury, and then he could be, be prosecuted and convicted of that. So his pardon doesn't cover that. If he refuses to testify, he could be held in contempt, which you've seen with Peter Navarro and Steve Bannon setting the precedent of prosecuting and putting people in jail for that. So, yeah, it could be a way to compel him to get to the bottom of it, because there is some societal, whether or not, anyone goes to jail, there is some value in finding out, like, what the heck's been going on with this family, because it just shows something really dirty about politics, that you get at a certain level of politics and everyone in your family miraculously becomes far richer than any ability that they would ordinarily have, with both Hunter with his drug problem, his brother, I don't know how rich he is, but it's like the amount of money this family was making for something that no one one could ever actually pinpoint what they actually do for the money. Most people, that earn a lot of money, people can at least say, well, they do this particular work. So it would be very interesting to say what the heck was going on here, because it does show something really ugly about our politics, that what's been going on with the Biden family.
Well, yeah, and the charges against him, the convictions against him, gun charges, falsifying that form, and tax evasion as well. But Biden, for people that are just joining us, the pardon goes all the way back to 2014, which is exactly when Hunter, went to go work for Burisma. So that is obviously something that people are saying, well, what Joe Biden is doing with this particular pardon is he is really giving cover to the entire Biden family. Now, moving on from there. What do you think of Kash Patel to lead the FBI? The left and the media, I've got some audio from MSNBC. Heads are literally exploding over Kash Patel. You worked in the Trump administration, first term, first go round. What were your thoughts on Kash Patel? I mean, I like him personally. He does seem to have the experience needed to lead the FBI, but what's your take?
Yeah, I don't know him personally, but I do think, on paper, he has the experience. When people are like, this pick is, ridiculous. And it's like, well, he was a former federal prosecutor. He has experience in the intelligence community. He certainly has all the requisite experience. People view him as a lightning rod, and I think that's something that's going to make it hard for him to be confirmed. But I think what's puzzling, I guess not really puzzling, but what I think about the left when they're going crazy about this is like they never take a moment to say, hey, what we've been doing hasn't been appropriate. No one will ever say like, hey, maybe we shouldn't have formed task force to go after moms at school board meetings. Like they never take any moment of self-reflection. So the fact that Donald Trump is taking somebody outside of this sort of Washington circle or the accepted establishment circle shouldn't surprise them, because the establishment hasn't been doing a very good job as caretakers of these institutions. Chris Wray had many opportunities to stand up to this administration and instead always deferred. You think of the border, you think of, my understanding was the FBI didn't want, and this is just reading it in the press, but didn't want to do the search warrant in Mar-a-Lago, but Maine DOJ pressed that. Maybe he could have pressed back harder and said, hey, let's just do a consensual search. We don't need to always ratchet things up. So, I think it's a reaction to what's been going on there. I think it's going to be it's going to be challenging to get him confirmed. And, that's something that I think is interesting. And also you have to weigh out when you're the president, how much capital do you put into each one of these picks? But I think it really is just a reflection of what's been going on, and this shouldn't be tolerated. And Donald Trump's been the victim of all of this stuff going on in the FBI. So he's been personally affected by it. It's not just like, a lot of us as outsiders are like, well, this is bad. It's been bad for him because, he's been the victim, and also his people around him have been, put in prison, have to rack up lawyer fees, going bankrupt and stuff like that. So it's very personal for him. So he wants somebody that he could trust in there. So that's what makes sense about the pick. But ultimately, where does it make it through? I don't know. I think it's probably the most challenging one he has now on his plate.
Yeah, and you talk about the lack of really self-awareness from the intelligence community and from the media as well, because the same people whose heads are exploding are the same ones that said the laptop from hell was Russian disinformation was when it wasn't, whether we're talking about media outlets or people, members of the intelligence community. So you're right. What we have currently is not working, and their kind of thinking has led us to where we are today, which, over the last 3.5, 4 years, we've had wide open borders, a politicized DOJ. We've had rising crime, of course, and the rest of what we all dealt with during the Biden administration. So, yeah, what we currently are doing, have been doing, isn't working. So, yeah, I think, incoming President Donald Trump he needs to do what he needs to do to get the folks in his administration and his cabinet that he needs to do the job. And I will say, I'm not sure where Senator Marsha Blackburn is. I'm reasonably certain she'll be for Kash Patel. I know that Senator Bill Hagerty has already come out and said that he would vote to confirm Kash Patel. And as always, Jonthan Fahey, always appreciate you being on with us here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN 622.